So, living in the moment, living in the moment, if you're around at Christmas and you're a musician, a certain ilk, means, I'm actually going to need that for just for a minute. It means doing the Messiah, or hearing the Messiah, either on the radio or going to a Messiah sing-along, or participating in a Messiah in many ways. It's often a part of the holiday. It was certainly part of my holiday, but the work, is sometimes associated with holidays like Christmas or Easter. But originally, it's really an oratorio that Handel wrote, and I wanted to kind of talk a little bit before we started doing a couple numbers about how the music making was back then, because the truth is that the way that Handel made music is not what we think of so much in the time after, with very strict instrumental parts all written out, and it was much more that they were as much in a way much closer to the way that we do when we get together with a cabaret, get a band together and get them charts, because this is the score to the Messiah. And if you'll look at you look at the pages that are falling out on the floor. If you look at this, there's actually only 4 parts that he wrote in the center. It was spanned out to some oboes and to first and second violin, viola, and cello, and basso continuo. Right? Anyone know what basso continuo is, or basso continuo figured bass? Basically, what Handel was doing was the same thing that we do when we say F7 or we say A minor 6, except in figured bass this time, if he wrote nothing over the note in the bass, it was a major chord. But there are all kinds of other combinations. If he wrote 6-3 over that, it was an A minor chord over the C in the first inversion. If he wrote 6-4, it was an F major chord. And it could have a flat, which meant the third is flat. So there are various signals which are very, very similar in content, but not in declination, but in content to the way that we write jazz charts today. So in other words, if I see C major, I can play it this way, or this way, or this way, or this way, no, or this way. The continuo players, or the cembalo players, or the harpsichord players, in most cases at that point, were playing very much the way jazz players are playing today. They were looking at the bass note and basically doing what related as chord symbols above it. So they were also making up parts. And the other thing is that the players who were playing together depended much more on their own instincts as a band. Now, you hear, I'm going to do a little bit of the overture. You often hear it done this way. Very grand. But let's face it, it's a 3-hour oratorio. And I'm already thinking, God, it's going to be a long night. Well, in 1982, I had the honor and privilege of studying at the Los Angeles Philharmonic Institute, which was a conducting and instrumental workshop for orchestral musicians that Bernstein set up. And Bernstein and Michael Tilson Thomas were among the teachers. Herbert Blomstedt. Christopher Hogwood was the teacher that I studied this material with, and he opened my eyes to Baroque music because I don't think I really understood it before that moment. And one of the things he said is that all Baroque music has to dance. They were at a time when there were dance suites, and music was something that was done for functions and special occasions and for royalty and for balls, but all music had a sense of dancing. And the instrumentalists didn't measure 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. They didn't measure that way. They felt it the way a jazz band does. So sometimes things were swung. They actually had notes that were swung. In fact, the middle section of one of the arias that Angela here is going to do is not written swung, but we play it swung because that's probably the way it was performed. There are little indications that in the score that show you, there are dotted notes that show, I bet the whole thing was swung. But When I heard this overture like this, the way Hogwood did it, it changed my life. Isn't that more fun? Doesn't that sound brighter to your ear? And it's somehow so right. And clarity was everything. Now, in those times, they used small forces. The choruses would have been 20, 22. The orchestra, maybe that many or less. Sometimes 4 oboes. Oboes didn't make quite as much of a loud honky noise back then. They were lighter in quality. So the oboes, they would have 4 oboes and maybe 8 violins and a couple of violas and a couple of celli and a bass, and a trumpet. 2 trumpets probably, and perhaps a trombone in some places. But by the time this piece had reached the beginning of the 19th century, conductors like Thomas Beecham, coming from the great romantic sweep of Tchaikovsky and Brahms and these composers that wrote big orchestral pieces, had reorchestrated this piece. Now, other people had reorchestrated. Mozart did one, and I think Mendelssohn did one. But every orchestration changed the sense of it to reflect the modern sense of musical values. Because there were no recordings in those days, so they didn't have a sense of what it might have sounded like in the day. So they were doing it in the style. It's much like us taking a Beatles song and updating it to a different style. They were doing it in the sense of the orchestration and the style of the era they were in. By the time the Messiah reached, I would say, its romantic peak, Sir Thomas Beecham conducted a performance with 2,000 singers in the chorus, 500 people in the orchestra, and a full battery of percussion. There's only timpani in the score on occasion, like Holy Chorus. This had a full percussion battery that included anvil and crash cymbals. That has nothing to do with the Messiah. Absolutely nothing. So I asked Adam and Zach to join us last minute. They were, as always, great sports. They're going to join my good friends Heather Peterson and Angela Pinty. And we're just going to give you a sense of what the chorus might be like in 2 different versions. So why don't you guys stand up on the stage, and this wonderful, wonderful music, and this chorus is glorious, and I'm sure you've all heard it before, but the way you often hear it, if the person is doing it in the more 19th century or 18th century romantic style, not 18th century, 19th or 20th century romantic style, I should say, would be like, can you guys see? Yes? That's better. Okay, good. So it would have sounded more like, probably like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Notice how you're feeling every beat.
The glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and the glory of the
What just happened? And the Lord shall be revealed. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Well done, folks. But notice that, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed. Now, for a while, people thought that Handel's English, his being German speaking, was bad. So he just didn't know it was revealed. He went revealed. Not true. There's a little thing at the point in the score called hemiola, which is not a strange and rare blood disease, but is an idea that when you're in 3, that the time halves. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Bernstein did. That's hemiola. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and hemiola, right? The problem is at this tempo, you don't even recognize the hemiola. You can't. So no wonder they thought his English was bad and he was going to reveal it. Because if you do it in the right, let's just do that. And the at letter A, I think, and the, see what that is? Right before that, where we stop, 4 bars.
Yeah.
So it's,
Right now, ready?
now we're going to do it quick. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and go.
Glory, the glory of the Lord shall be revealed.
To feel it, Lord shall be revealed. And now the words make sense. Do it one more time so you can hear that. Ready, and go.
And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed.
So feel that hemiola? That makes it come to life. And it only happens at the faster tempo. At the slower tempo, you just can't perceive it because you're feeling every beat. But now, we're going to start to feel the whole piece in one. And watch how it comes to life. Shorter notes, more clarity in the lyrics, and suddenly this music comes to life.
And the glory of the Lord.
And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed.
And all flesh shall speak together.
And all flesh shall see together. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. And all flesh shall see together.
And all flesh
And all flesh shall see together. The mouth of the Lord has spoken it. And the glory of the Lord, and all flesh shall see together. And all flesh shall see together. The glory of the Lord shall be revealed. And all flesh shall see together. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed. And all flesh shall see together. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. For the mouth of the Lord, the mouth of the Lord has spoken it.
So Heather, why don't you stay up there? So, you know, it's interesting because another thing that Handel did, first of all, there's this big hoo-ha about it that he wrote this piece in 3 weeks and he was divinely inspired. Well, perhaps. I'm not contesting that. But the truth is he wrote a lot of his pieces in 3 weeks. They were very facile to write. And he did the same things that musical theater composers. You all know For Unto Us. Unto us a son's given, right? And it's got this melisma. And one's going, unto us a child is born, the other is doing this crazy, right? Well, if you look back in his earlier works, that's a love duet from another work. It was a guy and a girl. And if you look at the chorus, it's always those two parts together. So it was a duet from the beginning. He thought, oh, I think I'll reuse it for this. And he wrote it out as a chorus. So they were doing the same kind of trunk song stuff that modern composers do. So, but this is a recitative and an aria,
which is one of the, he also, by the way, changed the soloists all the time throughout his life. There's a chart in the beginning of this book that shows different performances and which person sang the solo. And sometimes it was a baritone, sometimes it was an alto, sometimes it was a soprano. He would change the work around all the time, just like when we put a show into previews and change it around to make it better for the audience. He was always experimenting with this. So there is really no set version of this exactly. You have to kind of use your own instincts and taste. But this piece is usually done by the alto. And this is a wonderful air and recitative, which is like our little verse before the refrain. Same idea. And then a chorus, for thou that tellest good tidings to Zion. And this is Heather Peterson. This is the record.
Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel, God with us. Tellest good tidings to Zion. Get thee up into the high mountain. O thou that tellest good tidings to Zion. Get thee up into the high mountain. Is risen upon
Another thing you might have noticed is that the second time around she had little ornaments. This was also part of the technique of the era and the time. And so lots of times the singers would the second time interpolate ornaments into the music, very much like we do with jazz singing today. They would take and do it slightly different the second time you heard it. So there were many parallels. And it was a much freer time of music making than we think of as strictly classical. Now, I've invited Angela Penty to finish us off with today for a Classical Corner with this wonderful aria, which is Rejoice Greatly, and talk about coloratura, which is the fast melismas that you hear. This is full of them, and she does them wonderfully. So please welcome Angela Penty, and we're going to do the aria for soprano called Rejoice Greatly. And I hope the violins don't make as many mistakes as they did on the last one. I had to fire those violins. Oh, that was my right hand. That's right. Okay. Listen, Daddy. I love that. Yeah.
Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice greatly. Rejoice, O daughter of Zion. O daughter of Zion, rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. O daughter of Zion, rejoice greatly. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem, behold, thy King cometh unto thee. Behold, thy King cometh unto thee, cometh unto thee. Is the righteous Savior, and he shall speak peace.